I want to kind of switch kind of back into talking about pipelines and where we're currently at, right? So right now we're in Toronto, Canada. You've worked here in Canada. You've worked in America and the Bay Area and elsewhere. And I'm kind of curious about, like, in the face of funding cuts and shrinking academic pathways, even if we are kind of widening the definition around scientists, how are scientists like you navigating uncertainty without kind of losing meaning or momentum? I would almost feel like part of, if I were a scientist like you, I would feel like part of my job is momentum, is learning upon learning upon learning. What happens when we pause like this or we have these disruptions?
Yeah. For scientists, certainly in the US and in Canada, which is inexplicably linked with the US.
Sure.
And the whole world is in terms of science, it does feel like an attack on what our work. It feels like an attack. And if you told me that the NIH was, the government was cutting funding for research, for now, because we're focusing on education, for now, because we're focusing on healthcare, I would be like, okay, cool, we'll slow down, fine, right? But the way that the NIH is cutting funding is so... there's friends of mine who were on diversity supplements wanting to get into grad school that are not going to now, or they're delayed, and their life is happening.
Yes.
Guys married, children are going to happen.
Yes.
That's, let's, work for the bottom line for some other company and never get to any higher level of education. People are in science really passionate about learning, right? And so it does feel like an attack. And those 200 words, I don't know if you've heard about these 200 words that have been banned by the NIH. Like, if you write a grant that has the word woman in it or diversity, now at a time where we have big momentum, especially for women's health, we just got all this. Okay, fine. Now the birth rate is declining, so now we can work on fertility, not women's health, but fertility.
Sorry, real quick rant. One of the problems that I see a lot with people who are not as educated or literate around the healthcare, pharmaceutical, sort of medicine community and like research is that they think that you're the problem. You, my doctor, are the problem. You, the researcher, are the problem. You, whoever has the face of it, is the problem. When it's really these systems and these structures that have just been protecting themselves and infiltrating themselves over time, kind of like insurance, that can, make it very hard to change and bring about some of the things that I think we would all be able to benefit from. So to kind of come back to the question, because I was just like, what the fuck? Like, it's just like, can we, I like being creative when it comes to finding a way around opposition. And in this situation, I deem the reliance on government and sort of national award systems as the opposition only because they've chosen to become that through the systems that they kind of perpetuate with, like, yes, we need credentialed individuals. We need a process. I'm not hating on process, love process. But there also needs to be a level of, hey, who are we really doing this for? And if we are doing this for the greater good, can the greater good chip in a more meaningful way than passively through their tax dollars?
Yeah. I love your excitement, and I love that there is a sense of getting alternative funding. But there's one thing that's very important here that I can only exemplify using the COVID vaccine.
Okay.
Right. The mRNA vaccine and the story of Moderna is fantastic.
Okay.
They originally came to our lab in 2012 saying, we have an RNA, want to do something with this? And we were like, yeah, let's try it, but get out of here. We don't know what this is.
What
is RNA? And like, what kind of special RNA? Like, so they kept iterating. And they took an industry approach, like funding for getting this technology out to people. That was their vision. But that research, right, is not important in 2012. That IP that was got from a university, why, right? And then the point I'm trying to make is that research is almost always preparing for some sort of future thing that's not important now, which is why we need tax dollars to, kind of predict the future. It's like investing in defense, right? Right. In the future, it'll be a problem. So, and then the COVID vaccine, the greatest story of like implementing something quick. But guess what? Some nerd came up with this idea of like, hey, cool, wouldn't it be cool if we just put this RNA to vaccine, and then there needed to be taxpayer dollars that said, okay, it's not important now, but we can give you a little money for this because each person's not losing as much, right? And then you invested in that, and the United States was a leader in that field because they invested in that. So, not to say there's a lot of science. The whole process is not super efficient, right? There's a lot of science that's ready to go. Let's implement this now, right? And then there's science that's going to be important later. And we do need to continue to invest in that in order to get the trust of taxpayer dollars. You need all this credentialization. That's just how it is. And, stem cell biology, it's also like an unrealized potential, right? Like we're dealing with type 1 diabetes. We can be happy with just glucose monitors, right? But why do we want to replace the pancreas? Because it's a better technology. It's better for us. It can lead to growth. And that's why we invest in it. It's not going to make money today.